Alright, so after seeing Boroshiki make that Rasendan in Boruto chapter 65, I just had to talk about how Boruto might potentially be one of the best Rasengan users that we'll see in the near future. And just right now, what we know about Boruto and how he's managed to make these different Rasengans is that his future looks very promising, and it seems like it's going to be a very different path from what, Naruto and maybe Jiraiya did with the Rasengan. So, we look at Boruto, and Boruto's not a character that has as much, chakra reserves as his dad. And I really like how, because he doesn't have as big of chakra reserves just like Naruto, he's kind of forced to do different things with the Rasengan, right? We have Boruto's very first introduction, in this movie where Boruto created the vanishing Rasengan. And the vanishing Rasengan is a very powerful move, and it's a very underrated move, I feel like, because the vanishing Rasengan is a very powerful jutsu. We've seen this Rasengan damage the likes of Momoshiki. It caught him off guard because Momoshiki did not think that Rasengan was going to hit him, thus distracting him enough, in order for them to overcome him. We've also seen it in the Boro fight, where in the anime, Boruto actually creates a vanishing Rasengan right in front of Boro's face without Boro being able to detect it, which allowed them to take down Boro before he went into a rampage. So this finishing Rasengan in itself is a very powerful technique, just because it's kind of hard to see, and if you're not careful, this can kind of just pop out of nowhere and do a lot of damage to you. And it's sort of like a sniper bullet almost, to where it's very small and it's very compact, but when it hits you, it does a lot of damage. And we've seen that with how it affected Boro. And even when Boroshiki, Momoshiki, and Boruto's body used the finishing Rasengan against Sasuke, it even knocked Sasuke down too, and did leave kind of a dent in his shoulder. So even that jutsu that Boruto created as a kid is very powerful, and Boruto has a lot of potential when it comes to his Rasengans. Now, I kind of want to compare him to sort of how Naruto was sort of developing his Rasengans, because I think it's very interesting how the two are sort of taking different approaches to like the Rasengan development. And that's kind of what I like about Boruto, right? He's not really copying his dad. He's not immediately going for these giant Rasengans and things like that, because he doesn't have those chakra reserves like his dad does, and he's more so utilizing his specialties and being able to create these jutsus that are as efficient as these other Rasengans and still kind of get the job done. So, looking at Naruto's sort of Rasengan progression, he started out with like a regular Rasengan, developed like some giant Rasengans and whatnot, also coming out with something called the Rasen Shuriken, which was a very unique jutsu because Naruto actually managed to throw the Rasen Shuriken. And when he managed to throw the Rasen Shuriken, the game changed completely, because at that point in the story, I don't believe there was a lot of people that were able to even do that. And this was really a whole new concept of being able to throw the Rasengan and throw chakra, towards somebody, and able to do a significant amount of damage. So when Naruto managed to actually start throwing the Rasen Shuriken, that was a big improvement. And here we see Boruto over here throwing the vanishing Rasengans at people when he's a kid. So, and even though this vanishing Rasengan isn't as big as the Rasen Shuriken, it's still a decent achievement at that. But yeah, and then Naruto sort of progressed to like his lava style Rasengans and all those other stuff. It'd be way too much to go through the entire list, but you kind of get what I'm going for, right? Naruto's Rasengans mainly focus on sort of putting more chakra into them, making them bigger and more powerful, and Boruto's are sort of like the opposite, right? And if we compare it to like Jiraiya, Minato, kind of the whole thing, just make a bigger Rasengan, put more chakra into it, and so on and so forth. And like I said, Boruto's taking a much different approach to this situation, where it's not really about how much chakra you're putting into the Rasengan. It's more about, hey, how about we compress this thing, or how about we add a different chakra nature to the Rasengan and sort of utilize what we already have here and take advantage of that. So if we look at Boruto's other Rasengans, right? Boruto's, I believe, is the wind style Rasengan, to where he adds that wind chakra nature to it. And Boruto used the wind style Rasengan on Shoujoji. Kakashi was like, hey, if Shoujoji did not have that little barrier up, then he would have actually killed him. So even Boruto's, techniques like the wind style Rasengan, he's just adding a chakra nature to it, still pretty powerful. And we even look, further at some of his other Rasengans, like recently the compression style Rasengan, which is by far one of my favorites, right? He takes the Rasengan and he sort of compresses it and puts all that power into it. And what happens is it creates like almost like a bullet effect, right? It's a lot of power that's packed into this little package. And when Boruto first used this against Deepa in the anime, this thing did damage. Now, of course, he had Mitsuki and Sarada backing him up, but we saw this again with just Boruto being able to use use this by himself. And during the Ishiki fight, Boruto actually tried using the compression style Rasengan against one of Ishiki's cubes. And for a minute there, it seemed like Boruto was actually putting up a good fight, but obviously it doesn't seem like he was able to counter the cube accurately and didn't end up breaking it. But you know, still, I think that feat in itself kind of just proves just how strong the technique can be. You know, it's not always about how big the Rasengan is, you know, in order to stop something. That even you creating a small Rasengan and sort of hitting a center point is good enough, right? Because if Boruto was able to crack that cube, it would have most likely been from Boruto concentrating on one point and just breaking it from there. So yeah, and then we kind of go forward to now Borushiki coming back and seeing that Momoshiki is even taking note of Boruto's unique Rasengans, and now he's making this thing called a Rasendan, which is sort of like a compression style Rasengan, and he can actually shoot it like a gun. If you guys know the spirit gun thing from, I believe it's Yu Yu Hakusho, it's sort of like that. It's like a spirit gun, and Boruto, I'm guessing in the future he's gonna be able to do this Rasendan technique, which is going to be insanely powerful. Imagine Boruto being able to point his finger at you and create a Rasengan and shoot it off insanely fast. I'm really curious to see how Boruto's going to sort of utilize this in the future. I think it could be very powerful if Boruto's able to develop this technique a little bit more, because we're just taking the whole Rasengan concept and we're sort of remastering it now to where we can turn into this ball of chakra and actually shoot it through somebody. And we saw how it worked on Code. It went right through his shoulder and it did a decent amount of damage. So imagine if Borushiki wasn't aiming for his shoulder. Imagine if Borushiki was aiming for a vital organ, his heart, head, anything. That would have definitely killed Code if that was a fatal blow. So as this technique gets, you know, developed, then I'm telling you, man, Boruto is not gonna be somebody to play with. And I really like how they're taking this other direction and making Boruto very resourceful with his different Rasengans, because he doesn't have those large chakra reserves to sort of spam like his dad did. But yeah, man, I'm really interested to see that. I definitely think that Boruto is going to develop some more Rasengans. I think they're going to sort of be based on the compression style Rasengan and maybe even the concept of some of his other Rasengans, like the wind style Rasengan, and being able to add different chakra natures to it. Maybe even like a water style Rasengan would be kind of cool, and kind of be interested to see what other Rasengans Boruto is going to be able to create from that. Definitely the vanishing Rasengan and the Rasendan are going to be two of Boruto's strongest techniques going forward. I can kind of feel like that's going to be his main two things when he kind of wants to get a damaging hit on the opponent, or, you know, something along those lines. But yeah, definitely Boruto is going to be by far probably one of the best Rasengan users that we've seen so far, and I can't wait to see how he surpasses his dad in terms of the way he uses the Rasengan. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about Boruto's Rasengans. Do you guys think that Boruto is going to end up, you know, surpassing Naruto in terms of how he uses the Rasengans? Do you guys like how Boruto uses the Rasengans, you know, the vanishing Rasengan, compression type Rasengan, all that good stuff? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.